Alright, hello, and welcome to another yesterlore. Tonight, we're going to continue in sort of what's going to be a series of thematically similar elegiac poems that are in the Exeter book. These poems are similar in many ways, one of which is that a lot of them are pretty mysterious and have a lot of debate surrounding them. The one we read last time was Wolf and Ad Watcher, and it has a lot of different possible interpretations. It is also one of few recorded Old English poems that has a female speaker. Tonight, we are reading another one of those few Old English poems that has a female speaker, at least as indicated by the grammar, and context most likely points to that as well, although there are some interpretations of this poem where the use of the feminine self-reference is more metaphorical or allegorical. This is yet another poem that has a lot of debate about it, and it's often called the wife's message, or the wife's lament. The wife's lament. I'm thinking of the husband's message, which we'll read in a couple yesterlores from now. We're going to read the husband's message, but we are going to read the wife's lament today. It's not called that in the text. Most of the names we give to Old English poems are given by modern scholars, not actually in the text, although sometimes they're taken from the text, like they're a phrase that's used in the text. We're once again using the Exeter book facsimile website that we tend to when we're reading from the Exeter book. The poem that comes before this one is riddle number 59 in the Exeter book. We've read some Exeter book riddles before, and we've read some other things from this really cool survival from the Old English period. Today we're going to read at least the first part of the wife's lament, because the wife's lament is a bit longer than Wolf and Ad Watcher, which is what we read last time. So I'm going to give a little bit of context here. I think this poem is seems to be like Wolf and Ad Watcher, about a wife or a woman at the very least. We're not sure if it's a wife in Wolf and Ad Watcher, but a woman who is for some reason separated from someone she loves, a man that she loves. And that is a big theme of this poem, hence the name, The Wife's Lament. But there are a lot of different ways to interpret what's actually happening, because it seems ambiguous in places, and we'll see that as we get into it. Most of this, though, and which is why this is a really interesting poem, is really just about her inner state, her emotions, which is not something we get to read a lot about with Old English women. We get some of it, but it's not something that most of the literature covers, so it's always interesting for that reason. So we are gonna go ahead and start reading. I'm gonna zoom in a bit because it's a bit small right now. Their zoom buttons are a little extreme. Okay, I just have to use my own scroll bar to get a little closer. Let me see how that looks on OBS. I think that's okay for now. If it's too small, I know it's in Old English, so that might be hard to gauge, because the expectation is not that you can read this necessarily, but if you watch my past streams where I've talked about Old English manuscripts, or past video recordings of those streams, you might recognize a lot of the letters. So if it's too small to even follow along with, let me know and I can zoom in further. So let's get started. It starts with this big each. Each meaning I. Each. Each this yed ureka bime full yomorne. Yomorre. Sorry, I read that as an N for some reason. Yeah. Each, and that doesn't even make sense grammatically. I'm going to just read the full line, the full alliterative line. Actually, I'll read to the end of the logical sentence, actually, which is also includes the second half line poetically. Each this yed ureka bime full yomorre minre silvra sith. So let's break that down. I, each, this yed ureka. Now, ureka is actually really ambiguous. Its general meaning is to sort of get vengeance or carry out punishment or destruction. It's where the word wreak, W-R-E-A-K, as in like wreaking havoc or wreaking destruction, comes from. This urekan is the verb here. It, however, also means, in some contexts, to tell, or more vaguely to like carry out, undertake something. I think from that sense of like taking out vengeance to just taking out or acting upon something, and then that undertaking sense can get sort of extended to just relating a story. And this yed seems to be the object of this verb here. Yed meaning song or poem, verse. So, I, this song, ureka. I probably not get vengeance upon this song. Probably not punish this song. Undertake could make sense, or relate this poem. So some people translate this as sing this song or tell this tale, something like that. I undertake this song, bime. So here it's bime. It looks like one word, bime, but often spacing is loose and subjective in Old English, especially with prepositions. So be is a preposition. It's where the word by comes from, but it means more like about or upon here. Probably about me. So about myself. Full yomorre. Yomorre is here meaning sorrowful, sad. Yomor is sad. And this R-E here is, so this full sad is describing me here, me, which is the dative case here. And the R-E on yomorre is also the dative feminine singular ending, which makes it grammatically unambiguous that the speaker is feminine here. And we also get that here on this adjective minre. Minre silvre. So this is myself. But here it's actually genitive singular, because the genitive and dative singular adjective endings are the same for feminine nouns. Or, sorry, feminine adjectives. And this self pronoun here. Minre silvra sith. Now, sith is, it means like journey, or more vaguely time, or like the time or instance of something happening. So I think here it's more like path or experience here. My own journey, my own path. Because the use of self in Old English is often more like the way we use the word own in modern English, although they do sometimes use the word I as well, own. they tend to use self in places we like to use the word own, as in my own. Minre, sölfra, sydd. Also, self and sydd alliterate with the next line, the next half line said John here. So if we string that all together, I undertake this song about myself, about me, full sad, full sorrowful. So my very sad self, about my very sad self of my own journey. So it's my own path, my own time, my own experience that the poem is going to be about. Ich fat sejan mai, what ich irmtha yabad, sithan ich up weox. Niwes otha aldes, no ma, thonenu. Actually, yeah, no, that ends there. Thonenu. That's the end of a line there. So let's break that down. Ich that sejan mai, what ich irmtha yabad. That kind of goes together. So each that sejan mai just means I can say that, or I can say that blah blah blah. We're not sure what comes after that, if anything, grammatically necessarily, unless we read the second half, and then we can string it together. Each fat sejan mai, I can say that. So if anyone ever got on your case for using can when they corrected you and said you mean you may, ma in Old English means can, like to be able to. It's not primarily used for permission, nor is it restricted to permission. There isn't exactly a verb that is restricted to just use for asking for permission in, I think, any stage of the English language, but at a certain point it became prescribed as like a thing where you had to make a distinction between may and can, where may meant to be permitted to and can meant to have the ability to. Can meaning to have the ability to actually does go back to Old English because its primary meaning was to know, as in to know how to do something, kunnan. And then that expands to also mean skill and then wider sense of ability. Man is more just general, vague, being able to do something, whether it's your own might. It is related to the word might as in strength, but also the past of may is might. They're related, as well as permission. It's just there's not a formal lexical distinction between those in the English auxiliaries. But yeah, sejan mai, I can say that. What each irmtha yabad. Yabad is our verb here. Yabad is like abided or abode, not the noun, but I waited, or in this case probably endured, because what I endured was irmtha, of irmthu. Irmthu is like misery, wretchedness, horrible circumstances. So what I abode, or what I endured of horrible circumstances. So now this makes sense. I can say that which, or I can say what I endured of miseries, miserable circumstances. Sitan ich up weox. After, or since, but probably more after. It could go either way. Since ich up weox. Weox is the past tense of waxan, which is to grow. Waxan, to grow. To wax. You have that word in English, modern English. Weox is just the old past tense that meant grew. So, and then up is just up. So, since I grew up. And then we have niwes otha aldes. And this is the word new and old, but in the genitive singular. It's like of new or of old. So these are ways to say like recently or a long time ago. No ma thonne no. And I talked about this thon with the line over the O before. Putting a horizontal bar or a wavy bar over a vowel tends to tell you that what comes after it is a nasal sound, either N or M, depending on the context that it makes sense in. But when it shows up on the word thon, there's already an N here, and what this is indicating is an abbreviation for the word thonne, which means than or then. It can be then or than. The word is used for both, although there are other words used for then as well. In Old English, there's multiple options, whereas for than, T-H-A-N, in modern English, it's thonne. There wasn't like a super clear distinction. It's just, you know from context which it is. Now, what's not to be confused with this bar over the O is these sort of more angled, what looks like accent marks. It's a slight difference in the angle. It's not quite as, what's the word? Opposite of acute. Well, I mean, it is, either way, it's still an acute accent. We literally call it an acute accent, but it's more, it's lower down. I'm forgetting my geometry terminology right now. Someone can help me remember the word I am forgetting right now. That would be awesome. If you're watching this in the future, go ahead and comment it. It'll give me a comment even if I do look it up afterwards. I'm really frustrated with my inability to remember the word for the kind of slope this has, but it's lower. It's not as close to like a 90-degree angle from the text than usually accent marks that we have, acute or grave, have. These are there to indicate, well, they indicate different things in different, in text. They're not consistent, but these are all corresponding to long vowels, but there are plenty of long vowels that aren't being marked, so it's not a consistent thing. It's just, we think sometimes scribes might have put them in there for when they wanted to just emphasize how stressed these long syllables were. And I think it makes sense here because ma, at least ma and nu, are bearing the primary stress, and these are words that tend not to bear primary stress. They're like, I mean, more. Ma is more, and nu is now, and these are often words that kind of come before the word that would typically get the stress, because those tend to be nouns, adjectives, and sometimes verbs that get the stress, the primary stress, metrically with the sort of rules of the poetry. So no more than now is what this is. No more than now. So I can say what I endured of misery since I grew up, recently, or like formerly a while ago, no more than now. So either it's what she's endured in the past is no more than now, or she can say no more than now what she's endured. It's ambiguous. It's not the last time we'll find ambiguity in this poem. I'm going to read the next line. And it's a one grammatical unit, which is nice. It's a ichwita one minra raksida. So a is like ever or always. We have each again, I. Wita one. One, we'll come back to wita. Our verb is one. One is the past tense of winnan. Now, winnan is where the word win comes from. But in Old English, it doesn't mean necessarily to succeed. It means more like to struggle or have a conflict with someone. So I struggled with, or I fought, struggled with wita. Wita here is sort of like a punishment, or punishment is probably the best word here. Minra Raksida. Minra Raksida. Now this RA is not the same as the RE that made this feminine singular genitive or dative. This is a genitive plural, and all genitive plural adjectives pretty much have an not all of them, all strong ones at least grammatically have RA here, regardless of gender. So and this word is Raksith. So it's Sith again, but a Raksith is an exile's journey, an exile's path. So of my exile paths, it's plural, Sida, Minra Raksida. So it's the punishment of my exile journeys. So ever I endured or have endured the punishment of my exile journeys. So perhaps an exile journey, a journey or wandering of banishment that she has suffered. Perhaps she was banished for something that happened. Well, we'll get to what might have happened further down. Arest min hlavord jawat heunan of leodum over either yalak. Okay, I love the imagery here. So, arest means first. Arest, E-R-E. That word er, that old word for like before. So this is most before. First. First, min hlavord. Hlavord is my hlavord is Lord, from hlavwerd. Hlavwerd meaning like bread guardian. So a hlavord is a lord. Min hlavord, my lord. Yawat. He left, he departed. Heunan, hence, from here. Hence, of leodum. And here's another example of that like horizontal bar over the U, indicating a nasal here. And the one that makes sense is an M, because UM is the is a common dative ending for plurals and also for singular adjectives and pronouns. But here's probably plural because it's leode, people. So from people, maybe implicitly his people. So my Lord, first my Lord departed, hence from people, or like away from people. Over Ida Yalak. So Yalak, so lak is a really ambiguous word. I think we had it last time with Wolf and Ad Watcher. It was, it means like play, like a game, something you do that's dynamic, because it could also mean battle. And it can mean like a gift or service you provide, or an offering if we're talking about to a deity or saint or something like that, or in an exchange, lak. But here, yelak, ye as a prefix tends to indicate things like happening together if it's on a noun, or in like reciprocally, or on a verb. It originally had this sense, it could have either sense of togetherness, reciprocal, or perfectiveness, like it was completed and you're emphasizing the completeness of it. Over time, a lot of words got it, and there was very little distinction between having the ye and not having the ye, but for some words it actually makes a huge difference, and you just have to learn it basically, where it matters and where it doesn't. But I think here it is more like something like an interplay or a swishing, and the reason I say swishing is or rolling maybe is because of this word either. So an either is waves. Uth means wave. So it's of waves. So this is like the battle or the play, but emphasizing that like togetherness of them, of waves. So the rolling or the roiling or the sort of sloshing of waves is where he went over. He departed. So he went on a journey over the waves. but I just like that. I really like this imagery of like them either in battle or play against each other or offering each other things. It's sort of like, here you go, here you go. I'm just kind of imagining the waves very vividly there. And then we have one of my favorite Old English words coming up, even though there's a space between it. It is one compound word. Havde ich ucht tjara, where min leudfromma landes ware. So havde ich, I had. Havde is just the past of have. Havde ich ucht tjara. So ucht tjara, this is the accusative singular, so the object of have. It's ucht tjaru. Tjaru is concern or worry or anxiety or care. And then ucht or uchta means like the period of morning before the sun rises. It's like the pre-dawn morning, or like the wee small hours of the morning, if we want to get poetic about it in modern English. It's like the darkest hour before the dawn. There's a specific word for that in Old English, and it's ucht or uchta. So ucht tjaru is the anxiety you get during that time of day. the anxiety you get early in the morning before the sun comes out. So I guess you can put that on your list of untranslatable words if you want. It's a really good word to have in your arsenal. We should bring this one back. I think we need to bring ucht back first before we can bring ucht tjaru back, and then modernize it probably. But it would be tough because the modernization of ucht would kind of rub up against some other words. It would be applying normal sound change laws. That would just be like ought, O-U-G-H-T, which we have another word, ought, that's O-U-G-H-T. Actually, we have two identical ones. So that's it already has some competition. Then we have ought, A-U-G-H-T as well, which is different. Yeah, so it would be tough to bring it back, is all I'm saying. Unless we wanted to make this one of the H's that we pronounce like an F, although there's not a lot of historical justification for it here. Anyway, tangent. So I had like early morning anxiety or early morning concern about where min leudfromma landes ware, where my and then leudfromma landes, leud, we already talked about leude meaning people. Leudfromma is the forerunner, or the one who comes first. Usually it means leader, so it'd be the leudfromma would be like the people's leader, the chieftain. So this, again, kind of like Hlabord, implies there's some kind of high position that this man that she's lamenting being separated from is some high position. Maybe he is a chieftain or the son of a chieftain or something like that. But where my like people's leader, prince, Landes is just of land, so the land's prince, my prince of the land, ware. And ware is the word were, where he were. That is a past subjunctive, obviously, because we don't, I say obviously, it's obvious that it's past subjunctive because it's were and not was, or is, really. But here it's passive. So where my lord was would be indicative. Like it would be, it would imply that there was a concrete place where he was. But the point here is that she was concerned about where he might be, where he were, wherever he were. It's the same word that we use in phrases like if I were, which we don't have to say that anymore in modern English because we don't tend to distinguish the subjunctive anymore, but here in Old English it's operating. So I had early morning concern about where my lord of the land would have been. Where in modern English we would probably just use a was and use context to imply a contrafactual, but where he might be, we could say. Tha ich me feran jawat falgath sechan winalas rekka formindra waatharva. So, what does that mean? So tha is the other way to say then when we're talking about time. It could be then or when, but I don't see a second tha anytime soon, or a thona anytime soon. So this is probably just when, or just then. Usually if you have tha and then tha later, or tha thona, that means like when this happened, then this other thing happened. And you just repeat the tha or put thona as the second one. Or you could do thona tha sometimes. But here's tha by itself. So then ich me feran yawat. Ich yawat, I departed. We saw yawat earlier, but now it's I departed. Me, so probably like myself, I myself departed. Feran, to travel, to journey. Folgath sechan. So sechan is to seek. Sechan. Folgath, this is related to the verb folgan, to follow. It's where the word follow comes from. But a folgath is a following, as in those who follow you. It's like a collective singular of just like his following, his people, not his people as in his, I guess this could be like a tribe or something, but more like his retainers, his warriors that would go with him wherever he would go, his retinue. So to seek them. Winalas urekka. So winalas, wina is friend, las is less, so friendless. A friendless urakka. An urakka is an exile, a wretch. It's related to that word urak that we saw earlier. Here, uraksida. So urakka, or here it would be racha, actually, I think, with palatalization, because it's doubled C because there was a J there. So yeah, that would be racha. Is an exile, and it's where the word wretch comes from. W-R-E-T-C-H, not R-E-T-C-H. A friendless wretch, a friendless exile. Formindre waatharve. So, for my waatharve, and this is probably another compound of wa, which is woe, sorrow, and then tharv means, sorry, that's a short it's tharv. It means need or necessity. Here it's probably more like compulsion. My sorrowful compulsion. So because of, here is, this for is more like because of probably than for. Because of my sorrowful like drive or my sorrowful need, my sad circumstance causing me to do this, I then went myself to journey to find, to seek his following as a friendless wretch. And this word oracha, it is masculine, but like the word exile is masculine. I don't think we have any evidence that there was a feminine equivalent. It's just like the concept of being a wretch in exile is grammatically masculine. And a lot of languages with grammatical gender will sometimes have like words like this that are roles or positions in life or circumstances, but that they're nouns that can still refer to a person, but not necessarily have a separate, like, masculine versus feminine form. They just have an inherent gender, and regardless of the gender of the person, you still use the gender of the noun that you refer to it. And racha is one of those here. All right, so far, I'm actually going to just pause for a second just to go over what we've gotten so far. Ich des jed ureka bime full yomore minra selvra sith. Ich fat sejan mai, what ich irmtha yabad. Sithan ich up weox, niwes otha aldes, no ma thonne nu. A ich wita, one, minra uraxitha. Arest min hlavord jawat, heunan of leodum. Over ydda jelak, havde ich ucht tjare, waar min leod frumma londes ware. Fa ich me feran jawat, folgath sechan, winelas uracha, for minre watharfa. Should have voiced that and that, but that's okay. I relay this song about myself, my very sorrowful self, of my own journey. This song of my own journey or my own situation. I can say what I endured of sorrows since I grew up, recently or formerly, no more than now. Always I struggled with the punishment of my exiled journeys. First, my Lord departed from here, away from his people, over the tumult, what's a good word to translate yalak with? I guess the rolling is going of the waves. I had early morning anxiety about where my Lord of the land might be. Then I myself went to journey to seek his following, a friendless wretch, because of my woeful necessity, or out of my woeful necessity. All right, this is where we get some more plot thickening, I guess, what constitutes plot thickening in an old text like this that is very vague. We still get some plot. So we have ongunnon. Ongunnon. Ongunnon fat thes mannes maras hidjan thur dyrne je thocht that hier to dalden unk. That with je widost in worldriche lived on lath likost. And mek longade. Okay, that's a long stretch, so I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So, ongunnon tha, this would be, not that. Ongunnon that thes mannes magas hudjan. So, this thorn with the line through it is an abbreviation of the word that. So, ongunnon that. So this is a past plural of the verb onyinan, which means to begin. Onyinan. Sorry about that noise. So they began. Who began? That. what's that? Well, it's fasmanes maras. So maras are kinsmen, relatives, and whose are they? They're fasmanes, this man's. So this man's relatives began that. Began what? Began hydjan. Hydjan means to think or intend or plan something. So they began to plan that or think that thurch dyrne je thought that he todalden unk. They thought that thurch is through dyrne je thought. A yethocht is where the word thought comes from. Well, thocht is, but it can have this prefix yethocht. So through dyrne yethocht is like secret thought. Dyrne is secret or hidden. Through secret thought, like secret machinations, basically, that hier todalden unk. That they todalden, this is another past subjunctive in its plural. So todalan, dalan means divide or share, but todaldan means to split apart, to divide by like actively splitting something asunder. So here it'll be by, they thought that they would do this. So that's why it's past subjunctive. They thought that they would do this. They would separate, and then it's this word unk. And unk is the first person dual accusative. So it's the object form, because that's who they'd be separating. Us two. So a dual refers to just two people. So it's like a plural. It's like us, but it's us two. Because Old English had a special dual first and second person pronoun as well. This is the word wheat. And wheat comes up right here too. Todalden unk that wheat je widost in worldriche livdan. That we too livdan, lived, je widost in worldriche, widest in the world kingdom, or like the earthly kingdom. World is world and riche is kingdom. But this is probably in like a general, like in all the realm, the earthly realm, lived lazlikost. So lazliche is loathliest, well, loathly, and like the ost here is est, like est. So most loathly. Lath likost. Most loathly. So we two would live widest apart. Loathliest. And on mech, this seven looking thing here, I think I've explained this a bunch of times now, but I haven't today. So this is and, this seven looking thing, this is an abbreviation for the what we now use the ampersand for, which is just the Latin word et, but it's just really simplified until it looks like kind of like a seven, and it means and in Old English. It still is used in Irish, and it means agus, which is and. So and mech longada, and yearned or longed. And this word mech is the accusative singular of me. So it's and either longed for me or yearned for me. What we don't have is a subject pronoun here. So we know that this is a singular subject, but it's actually ambiguous if it was I yearned, or he yearned. Probably he yearned, because me is the object, unless it's I yearned for myself, but that doesn't really make much sense. And all of our prior subjects have been plural. The they that are his relatives, and the we two that are the wife lamenting and her husband. So what's going on here? The relatives of this man, after he leaves, so it kind of seems like what's happened is, this is just a theory. There's so many different theories about this, and there's so many debates about this poem, but what it seems just looking at what we have so far to be, is that the husband, the Lord, left. So like first he left from his people over the waves. So maybe he like went on a journey, a voyage for some reason, and she was anxious about like where could he be. Maybe he left for like a benign reason, like he was going on a journey to like meet someone from somewhere else for political reasons, or maybe he was going out to do some kind of raid of another place, sort of like Viking adjacent action, or exploring, who knows. But he left for some reason. And so she's already anxious, wondering where he is. And so then she goes out to look for his following. So maybe he was gone for too long, and then she got like suspicious. And so she's like, I'm going to go try to see. But she becomes like an exile for that. And because she did that, or for some other reason, the relatives of this man who left start to plot, I guess, to separate the two of them. Or that happened before, and we're only just now finding out, and that's why the husband left? Unclear. But for whatever reason, they, through some kind of scheme, want to separate the two of them and have them be very far apart. So that's what I mean when I say the plot thickens, is that we have this other element of... Sorry about the zoom being weird. I'm trying to find the right... So I think that's where we were. That's what I mean when I say the plot thickens. We have some other force. This like the relatives now are a factor here. So what happens next? We have het mek hlavord min herherd niman. Okay. This is where we get a very controversial to translate word. So het is the past of hatan, which means to command. So commanded, who commanded? They commanded me, hlavord min, my lord. So my lord commanded me, so my husband, commanded me, herherd niman. So there's some confusion about how to translate this. But metrically, like based on the rules of the poetic structure of Old English alliterative verse, herherd should be one word. It's not herherd. Her is here, and herd is hard, or like hardy, strong. Niman means to take. So my Lord commanded me to take here hard, or take here firm. That already is weird, but it can't mean that, or it can't be that grammatic or metrically. Like by the rules of the poetry, that doesn't work, because we have het and hlavord in the first half. We cannot have another two alliterating H lifts in the second half. And we know what the last lift is metrically, because there's 4 total lifts. The last one may not alliterate. The first 3, or 2 of the first 3, mandatorily including the third one, can alliterate. The third one has to alliterate. And then either the first 2 or both the first 2 can also alliterate. The last one may not. So we know Niman cannot alliterate. So it has to be a lift for that reason, because it doesn't alliterate. You can't have both head and had in the second half line, and we know the first half line is het mek hlavord min. So we have 2 H's, so we only get one more alliterating H. So we can't have herherd. Herherd. It needs to be one word, and just that H in had doesn't count, because it's not a lift. It's not like a stress. It's being stressed because Niman is getting the stress. So it has to be one word. So what does herherd mean? the most commonly posited theory is that it's a compound of harg, H-E-A-R-G, which here is getting kind of deleted because there's already an H after it, and G in that position. Sometimes it's spelled with an H instead of a G because it's like a back of the mouth sound. It's so harg. If you're saying harg, that would necessarily need to get written down because you're going to say the H sound anyway right after it. So that H in had can kind of function as the second H in the first word. You don't need to write the two. You don't need to write H-E-R-H, H-E-A-R-D if it's one word. That's probably explaining why we just see an H-E-R. And the fact that it's two separate words, we've already seen that compounds can get split like uchara, but also it's right at a line break. So it's possible that this is just a line thing. We see the literal next line here is stedda, and that's one word, stedda. It's not even a compound. It's just one single word that's getting cut off because in Old English, you just go to the next line and you just know. You have to just know that that's the same word. And we saw that with leodfruma as well. So this would just be another example of that. But what that would mean, so a harg is I guess the English word that is now is harrow. That's what that would be. It's not harrow the verb, but it's harrow like it's a pile of stones usually, or a mound, often a burial mound, or it could also be used to mean altar, like a heathen altar. So this would definitely be like a pre-Christian setting. We're already talking about the tribal period here with this sort of register of poetry a lot of the time. So this is definitely like, or seems to be set in like the remote past from the point of view of when this manuscript was written. This is like late Old English manuscript writing, but the language and the topics are very much older from the point of view of this story. So a hard, when we have a hard at the second part of a noun compound, if it is a noun, which it seems to be, because you're taking it, hard as a noun can mean like the act of hunkering down, like taking, or it's like a place of refuge, a sanctuary, because she's being ordered to take refuge. And what kind of refuge is it? What kind of sanctuary is it? It's a har. It's a mound, either some kind of heathen altar or burial mound or something. So take burial mound refuge, like hide in a tomb or hide in like some kind of heathen shrine or something. So this would be like a pre-Christian like shrine that might exist, is where he seems to have ordered her to maybe hide because of this animosity from the relatives or something. So achte ich, where are we at? I literally just read achte ich. Yeah. Achte ich leuvra lit on thissum landstede. So I, and then achte here, that's the past tense of an. And an is to own or to possess, or this could just be another way of saying had. Achte ich, I had. Leuvra lit. So leuvra is another sort of like genitive plural because it's that ra. And then leuf as an adjective. We know it's an adjective because it has a ra here. Leuf means loved one or beloved. And lit means little Lyt. You see these Y's are a little weird in some places. Kind of rotated a bit. But that's not how they write any other letter, and so we know that's why, and also that's the only word that makes sense there. We need a vowel. So leovra lit, little of beloveds, on thisum lonsteda. Okay, so on thisum lonsteda, on this landstead. Steda means place or stead, and land is land. So landstead. So in this, like, I guess we can call that like country, region, place where his people live. And I keep saying his people. That's kind of an assumption I make. Well, we know that it's his relatives that are the thing, but why not assume it's all of their people? It's really common if this is in that sort of like tribal context of like the early Germanic tribes that the English end up coming from. If it's in that context, then we know that there's really pervasive exogamy. So it's really common for a woman, especially if she's marrying what seems to be like a higher ranked person in that tribe, like a chieftain or chieftain's son or something. It's really common for them to wed someone from another tribe for political purposes, like to smooth over conflict between the groups, which there seems to still be some if they're still like kind of having some animosity, or as some other way to like make an exchange between the parties of the different tribes. So it's really common for, if we're in like we would call like, I guess, the nobility in a tribal system, to be married to someone from a different tribe. So, and in these cases, it's the woman would go to live with the tribe of her husband, which means she's in a land where she has little of beloveds. Like, she doesn't have a lot of allies here. She's in a land that is hostile to her, right? Because his relatives plotted to separate them. Why? I guess they don't like her, or they have beef with her tribe, hence probably why she's even married to this guy, potentially. And we get that leovra recapitulated, holdra freunda. So hold is the adjective there, hold as in like ally. Really, it's hold is like allied, friendly, loyal. One who will hold loyally to you is hold. You call them hold as a adjective. That is a hold person as opposed to an unhold person, unfaithless backstabber. Basically, it would be unholda. There's also a word unholda that gets used, same word, same etymology if I'm not mistaken, that sometimes gets used for like evil spirits. like demonic presence. A demonic presence might be called an unholda, because it is unhold. It's not friendly. It's anti-friendly. And we know that this is like friendly or loyal because we have freunda, again, genitive plural. So we could even apply this leovra to freunda and just say that this adjective describes this noun. It's used up here because it starts with an L to alliterate with lit and landstede here. So we could say, we could translate this as, I had few beloved, faithful friends. Or I could say, I had few beloved ones in this land, this country, comma, faithful friends. But she's referring back to what she doesn't have. She has little of them. So I have few loyal friends, loyal beloved friends in this land. Forthon is min hya yomor. Yomor. Ooh. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. I got tripped up for a second. Yeah, forthon is mean hia jammer. So forthon is like for that reason. It's forthon also means because blah blah blah. But here it's for that reason. Thus, is mean hia jammer. So we know jammer means sad, and hia means like thought or mind, heart. It's one of the many words that can refer to sort of like the faculty of emotion and thinking. In Old English, we tend to have like a very weird, I guess weird is not necessarily the right word, but we have like a pretty, I don't want to say strong, but we do have a tendency in modern English to separate the heart and the mind. Not like the physical heart from the mind. We know those are separate just because of anatomy. But the concept of like the heart, your emotions, from the mind of your intellect. We sort of have a big separation between those two things. Like your rational, intellectual thoughts, on the one hand, are treated differently than your sort of like more primal, difficult to control emotions, emotional responses. We tend to treat those things separately, even if we know that they're both cognitive processes that happen in the nervous system, etc. We tend to treat those differently from each other, and that's something that Old English does not really do much. You can sort of lean one way or the other in terms of what you're talking about. Like hya tends to be used to talk about thoughts that you're controlling, but then how can they be sad? Right? Yomor, that's an emotion. There isn't such a clear division between those two things in Old English because, first of all, they use the word heart to refer to those, both of those, as well, like your braust, your breast, or your heart. There are many different ways to refer to this, but they're all treated like they're the same part of you, like internally. Like there's not like feeling emotions versus thinking thoughts. They're both different kinds of thoughts. Sadness is a thought. Anger is a thought. So here we have yomor. If we translate he as thought, for that reason my thought is sad. We also see that like hujan, to think or plan, which is related to hiya, most words for to be an emotion, if you're not just using be, are they're verbs. I actually already said the word verb. There are a lot of verbs that are like active verbs that mean to be angry or to be upset. They're active verbs in the same way that hijan is an active verb, to think or plan something. That's why this might sound weird to translate this as, for that reason my thought is sad, but this word thought hiya, related to hijan, to think, is a bit more general. It's sort of the idea of the mind / heart complex. That's all kind of treated like the same thing, or like the same capacity. And the reason we're using hiya, I think it can be multiply explained. We've used hijan before, so it's something that she's trying to explain, which is why hiya probably is coming up. But the other reason is because this is in a line with H alliteration. We have a holdra here, and we need an H word, and if we want a word for mind or heart that starts with H, hiya is right there. All right, so that's where we're going to stop for today. We're a little bit over the time that I had wanted to go today, but that is okay. We will continue with the rest of this. Hopefully we get through the rest of it next time. The rest of this poem in the next yesterlore. I think that will be in 2 weeks, because next week we are going to return to Madun, which is the conlang project that I'm going through in conlang with me currently. So if you would like to see more of Madun, tune in next week, or wait for the recording to get put up on YouTube. And if you are just going to wait until we continue with this poem, you can wait 2 weeks and tune in, or wait for me to upload it. In either case, I hope you have a great rest of the day, evening, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in, whatever would apply to that. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you, and farewell.